So today we'll start with the peripheral parasympathetic ganglia. Okay. So the first one we are going to see is the ciliary ganglia. Okay. So before going into that, I will give a short introduction to the autonomic nervous system. I think you know there are two parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So each one they will relay in a ganglion. From there, it will go on to the effector organ. Okay. So this sympathetic system, they will start from the thoracolumbar outflow, that is from T1 to L2 segment. The preganglion fibers arise from T1 to L2 spinal segment. From there, it relay in the sympathetic ganglia, which is located on either side of the vertebral column. So from there, postganglionic fibers arises and they will reach the effector organ. So mostly the supply will be the smooth muscle glands. Okay. But if you see the parasympathetic ganglion, okay, so there are 5 parasympathetic ganglion, okay, so they will start from the cranial outflow, okay, that is from the nuclei of the brainstem, from the cranial nuclei of the brainstem, and the sacral outflow from the S2, S3, and S4 spinal segments, okay. So the preganglionic fibers arise from here, and they will relay in the parasympathetic ganglion. Is usually will be located close to the effector organ. Okay, but if you see the sympathetic ganglion, it is always located close to the vertebral column, that is close to the origin point. But the parasympathetic ganglion will be located close to the area where it supplies. Okay, so from there the postganglionic parasympathetic fibers arise and it will supply the effector organ, that is mainly the glands and smooth muscles. Okay. In this parasympathetic ganglia, you can see the postganglionic fibers will be short and the preganglionic fibers are long, but it will be opposite in the sympathetic. The preganglionic fibers are short and postganglionic fibers are long. Okay. So with this short introduction, we'll go on to the ciliary ganglia now. Okay. So this is the objectives of this session. So this headings are common to all the 4 peripheral sympathetic ganglion. So I'm going to take only the peripheral parasympathetic ganglion in the head and neck. Okay. So first we'll see the ciliary ganglion. So we are going to see under location, connections in structurally and functionally, and roots, branches, distribution, and applied anatomy. Okay. So this is common to all 4 ganglia. Okay. So the first we'll see about the ciliary ganglion. Before going into the ciliary ganglion, I'll give a brief introduction to the orbit. Then, because orbit was covered so long back, you might have been forgotten about that. Okay, this is the lateral view of the orbit. You can see the eyeball here. Okay, this is the roof of the orbit, floor of the orbit. Okay, this is the apex of the orbit. Okay, you can see the muscles. There are 3 muscles in the superior part. You can see this muscle is turning and going to the eyeball. This is the superior oblique. And the next one will be the levator palpebrae superior is going to the eyelid. The next one here is the superior rectus. Okay. And here inferiorly you can see the inferior rectus. Okay. And here you can see a muscle is cut here. This is called as the lateral rectus. And this is the inferior oblique. Okay. In between you can see the optic nerve. This is the optic nerve and this is the ciliary ganglia. Okay, and you can see the oculomotor nerve is coming and divides into 2 divisions, superior division and inferior division here. So the inferior division has a communication with the ciliary ganglia here. Okay, so now you can see with the labeling, this is the lateral rectus, this is the ciliary ganglia, short ciliary nerve, and this is the optic nerve. Okay, so now we'll go on to the ciliary ganglion. So it is a peripheral parasympathetic ganglion. Okay. So if you see the size of the peripheral parasympathetic ganglion, that is ciliary ganglion, it is about the pin's head size. It's very difficult to see in dissection. Okay. And it is located near the apex of the orbit here, between the optic nerve and the lateral rectus muscle. You can see between optic nerve and lateral rectus, you can see the location of the ciliary ganglia. So it consists of 3 roots: motor root, sensory, and sympathetic root. The motor root is otherwise called parasympathetic root. Okay. So now we'll see one by one each root. Okay. So before going into that, it is actually connected with two cranial nerves, one structurally and other one is functionally. So topographical means it is connected structurally. Okay, structurally it is connected with the nasociliary nerve and functionally with the oculomotor nerve. Okay, and if you see actually in between these two, you have the ganglion in between the lateral rectus and the optic nerve. The ophthalmic artery also will be there near the apex of the orbit. Okay, with this I'll go on to the roots of the ciliary ganglia. Okay, so first we will see the motor root. The motor root arises from the, this is the section of midbrain. So it arises from the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. Okay, this is the red nucleus. You can see the superior colliculus. This is the cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so now the motor root or parasympathetic root arises from midbrain at the level of superior colliculus from Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Okay, the oculomotor nuclear complex consists of both oculomotor nucleus and Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Okay, in the next picture you can see this is the oculomotor nuclear complex. It consists of both oculomotor nucleus and Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Okay, so this oculomotor nucleus serves as a somatic component that it carries general somatic efferent fiber. That means it supplies the muscles of the eyeball. And if you see the Edinger-Westphal nuclei, it actually it's gives secretomotor supply to the glands in and around, and also it supplies the smooth muscles of the eyeball. That means it supplies general, it gives general visceral efferent fibers. Okay. Now this Edinger-Westphal nucleus and oculomotor nucleus, from this the two nerve fibers arises. They will join to form a single trunk. Okay. Now if you see this oculomotor, now it divides just near the apex of the orbit into superior division and inferior division. Okay, so the inferior division gives a branch called nerve to inferior oblique. So now the preganglionic fibers which is arising from Edinger-Westphal nucleus passes through oculomotor nerve, then nerve to inferior oblique, then relay in the ciliary ganglion. Okay, so from here the postganglionic nerve fibers arise, which passes through short ciliary nerve, and it supplies the sphincter pupillae and ciliaris muscle. So this is the parasympathetic motor root of the ciliary ganglion. I have put it in a flow chart. So you follow the flow chart. Okay, that is enough. Okay. So the preganglionic fibers arise from Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Then from there oculomotor nerve comes out, and through nerve to inferior oblique, it relay in the ciliary ganglion. Now from the ganglion, the postganglionic fibers arise. Okay. So this postganglionic fibers, they pass through short ciliary nerves. Then it supplies the sphincter pupillae and ciliaris muscle. So this is the parasympathetic root or motor root of the ciliary ganglion. Okay. So I think now you are clear. So for all the four ganglions, you follow this flow chart. Okay. And draw a simple diagram. I'll show at the end how to draw. Okay. So next we'll go on to the sensory root. Okay. The sensory root is passing through the nasociliary. So you know this is the ciliary ganglion. You can see the sensory root here. It is passing through the nasociliary now. So this is a simple diagram you can use for drawing. Just draw your eyeball here. This is the lateral rectus muscle, optic nerve. In between you can see the ciliary ganglion. This is the short ciliary nerve. Draw three roots like this. Okay, mention the motor root from oculomotor nerve, sympathetic root like this, sensory root like this. So now we'll see the sensory root. So sensory root, it passes through nasociliary nerve. So you know the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve gives rise to nasociliary nerve. So now the nasociliary nerve, it passes through ciliary ganglion without relay. Okay, that is, it acts as a channel only. The ciliary ganglion, it acts as a channel only. Here, it will not relay any information to the ganglia. Okay, so from there, through short ciliary nerves, it goes and carries sensation from the eyeball. So what are the sensation it carries? Pain, touch, and thermal sensation from the eyeball. Okay, then again it will pass through and it will reach the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal. Okay, I think now you are clear with the sensory root. So next we'll go on to the sympathetic root of the ciliary ganglia. Okay, so the sympathetic root arises from the plexus, sympathetic plexus around internal carotid artery. You know the internal carotid artery enters the middle cranial fossa through carotid canal. Okay, this located within the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. Even this oculomotor nerve is related there. Okay, so now the here this preganglionic fibers will arise from upper three thoracic segments. Then they will relay in the superior cervical ganglion. So from here the postganglionic fibers they pass through sympathetic plexus around internal carotid artery. So now the sympathetic root is carried by the postganglionic fibers from the superior cervical ganglion, which pass through sympathetic plexus around internal carotid artery, which passes through ciliary ganglion. So again through short ciliary nerves, it supplies the blood vessels of the eyeball and dilated pupillae muscle. Okay, so it acts as a vasomotor in function here. Okay, I think now you're clear about the sympathetic root. Okay, so most of the ganglion, the sympathetic root, that is for peripheral parasympathetic ganglion located in head and neck, the sympathetic root arises from postganglionic fibers from superior cervical ganglion. Okay, you always have to keep it in mind. But this plexus around internal carotid artery, it will differ for other ganglion, that I will tell you later. Okay, so I think now you are clear with the three roots of the ciliary ganglion: motor root, sensory root, and sympathetic root. Okay, now come to the branches of the ciliary ganglion. Okay, so it gives 8 to 10 ciliary short ciliary nerves here, so which divide into 15 to 20 branches. Okay, so this contain fibers from all three roots of ganglion, that is sensory root, sympathetic root, and motor root. Okay, so this branches they pierce this sclera around the entrance of the aortic nerve. Here is the entrance of the aortic nerve, so it pierces the sclera and it will reach the target organ. Okay, so with this I'll finish the branches. Now I'm going to take the applied aspect. So the ciliary ganglion itself, it will not be injured, but actually if there is any injury to the oculomotor nerve due to any accident, if apex of the orbit is damaged, then the oculomotor nerve will be completely damaged, means so the entire supply to the extraocular muscles will be lost. Okay, so in that the ciliary ganglion supply also will be lost, and this since it supplies dilated pupillae, ciliaris muscle, it causes dilatation in fixed pupil and loss of accommodation. If the ciliaris muscle is affected, it results in loss of accommodation. If sphincter pupillae is affected, it causes dilator and fixed pupillae. Okay, so you can see the drooping of the upper eyelid here. Okay, and with the external strabismus, that is lateral spin, that is medial rectus is damaged here. Okay, so in the next picture you can see clear the oculomotor nerve paralysis. Okay, so the right side paralysis you can see, and this picture shows the abducens nerve injury, which shows the medial spin. Okay, so with this I'll finish the class. Do you have any doubt? You can